When the courtroom doors opened, every eye turned to the man in the worn-out army jacket holding his little girl's hand. He looked out of place, tired, humble, and clearly nervous. The judge raised an eyebrow and whispered to his clerk with a smirk, "This is the single dad who thinks he can represent himself." The courtroom chuckled quietly. But what no one knew, was that this so-called, simple veteran, was about to outsmart everyone in that room, including the judge himself. Before we begin, if you believe that courage and intelligence don't always come from fancy degrees, make sure to hit that like button, and subscribe, because what happens next will truly inspire you. Daniel Brooks was a single father and a decorated Army veteran. Life after service hadn't been kind to him. His wife had passed away 3 years earlier from cancer, and ever since, Daniel's entire world revolved around his 7-year-old daughter, Lily. To give her a stable life, he worked 2 jobs, as a mechanic during the day and a night security guard. But one morning, a letter arrived that changed everything. His landlord was evicting him over a legal technicality. The company claimed Daniel missed a payment, even though he had receipts proving otherwise. They wanted his home back for redevelopment, and they weren't playing fair. Daniel tried talking to them, but their lawyers dismissed him like a child. Finally, he was forced to take the case to court, representing himself, because he couldn't afford an attorney. The courtroom was full that day. The landlord's team of expensive lawyers stood tall and confident. The judge, an older man named Judge Hamilton, was known for being impatient with amateurs. The moment Daniel walked in wearing his old army jacket, holding a folder of papers instead of a leather briefcase, Hamilton smirked. "Mr. Brooks," the judge said dryly, "I assume you're representing yourself today." "Yes, Your Honor," Daniel replied respectfully. The judge sighed. "Well, I hope you've at least watched a few courtroom dramas, because this isn't a movie." The lawyers laughed. Lily, sitting quietly in the back, lowered her head, embarrassed for her dad. But Daniel only smiled slightly, the same calm expression he had worn during firefights overseas. He had faced worse than mockery. As the case began, the landlord's lawyer stood and spoke confidently. "Your Honor, this man failed to pay rent for 3 consecutive months. We have the records to prove it. He's simply trying to play the victim." Daniel stood next. He opened his folder, papers carefully arranged, corners crisp. "Your Honor," he said, "with your permission, I'd like to present a few documents." The judge waved his hand lazily. "Proceed." Daniel began showing receipts, one by one, with dates and official payment confirmations. But then, he did something unexpected. He handed out copies of a clause from the state's Housing Act, the very clause the landlord's lawyer had failed to mention. This clause, Daniel explained calmly, states that any payment made electronically within 5 days of the due date must be legally recognized as on time. My payments were made on the 3rd day. Here are the timestamps and confirmation numbers. The courtroom murmured. The lawyer frowned, flipping through his notes. The judge leaned forward for the first time. "Mr. Brooks," he said slowly, "how did you know about that clause?" Daniel looked at him evenly. "I read the entire housing code, sir. Twice. It seemed fair to understand what I was fighting for." The judge blinked. "You read the entire code?" "Yes, Your Honor," Daniel said simply. "In the military, you learn that not knowing the rules can cost lives. Here, it could cost my daughter her home." The room fell silent. The smirks disappeared. The landlord's lawyer began stuttering, trying to recover. But Daniel wasn't done. He produced another document, an internal memo he had found through public records. It proved the landlord's company had already approved redevelopment plans months before, claiming Daniel missed payments. It was a setup, an excuse to evict tenants early. The judge's face hardened. "Mr. Brooks," he said, "how did you get this memo?" Daniel replied quietly, "Public information request, sir. Veterans get taught patience." The courtroom was dead silent now. Even the lawyer's confidence crumbled. The judge leaned back, rubbing his forehead, realizing he had completely underestimated the man standing before him. After a few tense moments, the judge sighed deeply. "I owe you an apology, Mr. Brooks. It seems you've done your homework better than most attorneys who walk through this door. This court rules in your favor." Case dismissed. Daniel nodded respectfully, emotion barely contained. Lily ran up to him, tears of relief streaming down her cheeks. "Daddy, we get to stay," she whispered. Daniel hugged her tightly. "Yes, sweetheart, we're going home." As they left, the courtroom spectators began clapping quietly, something rarely seen in court. Even the judge stood, calling out, "Mr. Brooks, you ever think about going to law school?" Daniel smiled faintly. "No, sir. I just think people deserve a fair fight." Later that week, the local news picked up the story. Single dad veteran outsmarts big law firm, wins case alone. It went viral. Messages poured in, from single parents, veterans, and even young law students, all saying how his story gave them hope. But Daniel never bragged. He just kept working, raising his daughter, and volunteering at a legal aid center on weekends, helping others who couldn't afford lawyers. Judge Hamilton himself visited one day, offering to help. "You reminded me what justice should really look like," he said quietly. Daniel only nodded. "It's not about knowing everything, sir. It's about never giving up." And so, the man once mocked for being just a mechanic and a veteran, became a silent hero in his community, proving that true intelligence comes not from titles or degrees, but from determination, love, and courage to stand for what's right. So if this story moved you even a little, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because sometimes, all it takes is one brave heart to remind the world, never underestimate a single dad who's fighting for his child.